There was no scream, no final cry, no great battle to commemorate Earth's fall. Only silence, and then static. Commander Elias Voss stood at the observation bay of the Vengeance Protocol, Earth's last surviving command vessel. Below, the planet turned slowly, half-shrouded in smoke. The cities, those once bright veins of civilization, were now blackened craters. Whole continents flickered with the embers of failed diplomacy. His hands were steady, but his jaw clenched with a restraint that had grown brittle. The holoscreen beside him played the last emergency broadcast on loop, a global distress beacon intercepted by the Empire moments before it cut off. This is Earth Central. We are unarmed. We seek immediate dialogue. Transmission lost. He turned it off. Commander, a voice buzzed from the console, sharp and clipped. UN Command awaits your decision. The vote's ready. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out again, as if he could see her, his daughter, somewhere among the ash. Her face flashed unbidden in his mind. Laughter, freckles, the way she used to braid his hair when he wasn't paying attention. He exhaled, slow, sharp. He stepped away from the viewport. The war room was dim, filled with the heavy presence of those who had lost everything. Holograms flickered over the circular table, maps of enemy movements, casualty estimates, ruined infrastructure. The United Nations' last chain of command looked to Elias, every eye hollow. "Gentlemen," Elias began, voice low but resonant, "we have three choices. First, we beg. Crawl to the same council that watched this happen. Second, we scatter. Survive, rebuild in hiding. And third." He tapped the table. A new holo expanded, a sealed protocol, Theta Directive. A collective inhale rippled through the room. "That was theoretical," someone said. "It's never been. It exists for this exact moment," Elias cut in. "When diplomacy dies, when peace is exploited as weakness. This isn't survival anymore. This is retribution." Vice Admiral Tran, the youngest at the table but among the sharpest minds, leaned forward. "Theta calls for full-spectrum retaliation. Are we prepared for that?" "We're past prepared," Elias said. "We're entitled." "Even if the Council steps in," another asked. "They already made their choice. They watched Earth burn and called it correction." His eyes narrowed. "Now we correct them." A long silence. Then one by one, heads nodded. Elias authorized Theta Directive. Back in his quarters, Elias activated a private file. It was a personal log, never meant for public eyes. Entry 1034. Time, post-impact plus 72 hours. My name is Elias Voss. This is not a message of hope. This is a eulogy. I was once a man who believed in treaties. In consensus. I sat at the same table as Archon Virex. I shook his hand. I advocated for mutual technology exchanges. Then I watched as orbital bombs erased Geneva. I watched my daughter's face disappear mid-call. So now, I don't speak for peace. I speak for the dead. He saved it and encrypted the file with a dead man's trigger. 3 hours later, the Vengeance Protocol was fully mobilized. 5 surviving warships followed behind, stripped-down relics of Earth's once proud armada, now outfitted with every dirty weapon humanity had ever vowed never to use. EMP cascade nets. Neural firewalls. Black Ops virus payloads. The kind of arsenal that made you a threat, not a participant. "Coordinates locked," reported the NAV officer. "Where to?" asked Captain Tran, approaching Elias on the command deck. "Straight through the Empire's throat." She hesitated. "You're sure about this? Do you think they'll stop if we don't?" His eyes remained on the star map. "They called us savage behind closed doors. Let's teach them what that word really means." She nodded and turned to relay orders. But just before stepping away, she asked, "And after?" He looked at her. There was no softness in his voice. "There is no after. Only justice." Elias stood alone in the CIC as the ship's warp drive powered up. The hum grew into a tremor through the deck, like the heartbeat of something ancient waking. He opened a final encrypted channel, one directed to the Galactic Council. Transmission begins. To the honored members of the Council, this is Elias Voss, commander of Earth's last fleet. You called our death a necessary purge. You sat silent as the Empire burned our cities. You called us uncivilized for resisting. Allow me to correct your records. We were civilized. But we're not anymore. Transmission ends. The warp core pulsed. Jump, Elias ordered. And the stars vanished. The Vengeance Protocol emerged from hyperspace like a ghost, silent and invisible against the stars. They had dropped into the black edge of the Empire's logistics artery, Sector 12, a supply route critical for maintaining its inner colonies. No alarms. No resistance. Just the cold, yawning void and the glint of resource haulers. Perfect. Commander Elias Voss stood at the CIC's tactical station, arms folded. Dozens of civilian freighters blinked in the distance, fat, slow-moving ships unaware of what followed them. Send the warning, he ordered. Captain Rhea Tran nodded and opened a wideband channel. She kept her voice flat, official. This is Commander Elias Voss of the Terran Strategic Command. Your government committed genocide. You are not targets, yet. Evacuate your vessels. Leave the Empire. You have 10 minutes. No reply. Then a burst of laughter crackled through the comms. Humans, came a guttural voice, heavy with disdain. Still playing soldier after losing your planet? Elias didn't respond. Instead, he turned to his weapons officer. Disable engines. Don't kill. 5 drone pods launched in silence. Each darted toward a freighter's engine core. Moments later, small implosions blinked across the sector like fireflies dying in the night. The vessels drifted, powerless. Within minutes, escape pods began to launch. Hundreds of blinking lights flooded away from the ships, scattering into space. Clean, said Tran. No casualties. They're running. Good, Elias said. Let them run. Let the story run with them. Hours later, they boarded a disabled cruiser. Inside, chaos. Dead crew, scattered in the hallways. Some had resisted. Most had surrendered quickly when they realized the human boarding party didn't fire first, but wouldn't hesitate if provoked. In the brig, they found him. High Marshal Kex Tlor. One of the Empire's strategic planners. One of the minds behind Earth's bombardment. Elias entered the cell personally. Kex was seated, arms crossed, smug despite the restraints. His scaled face twisted in amusement. Come to extract an apology, he sneered. You won't get one. Elias didn't reply. Instead, he placed a small, black cube on the table and activated it. A hologram bloomed, a looping image of Earth's final moments. Cities disintegrating. Children crying. Ash covering oceans. Kex's smile faltered. Elias leaned in. You authorized this. I executed protocol, Kex said sharply. Humanity was unstable. Aggressive. You were a threat to order. You mean you couldn't control us? Same thing. Captain Tran stepped forward. Why now? Why wipe us out when we were offering peace? Kex spat near her boots. Because peace with humans is an illusion. You grow fast. You adapt. And worst of all, you remember. Elias took a slow breath. Then remember this. He pulled up another file, Theta footage, Test 17. It showed a viral AI infiltrating and rewriting an enemy fleet's targeting system, forcing them to turn on each other. The screams were brief. Kex's eyes widened. You've made your point, he hissed. No, Elias said softly. This isn't the point. This is the prologue. Back aboard the Vengeance, Tran confronted Elias on the observation deck. You knew he'd provoke you, she said. Why bring him aboard? To hear it from his own mouth. And if he didn't talk? Elias turned from the viewport. Then he'd still breathe long enough to carry the fear back. Tran crossed her arms. Fear isn't justice. No, he said. But it's the only thing that travels faster than light. She didn't argue. But she didn't look away, either. Where did you get those Empire coordinates? She asked. They're inner systems. Military-grade navigation paths. That wasn't on any Terran intel. Elias didn't answer. She waited, then added quietly, You've been planning this longer than you let on. I had contingency plans, he admitted. Even during the peace talks. Hope for diplomacy. Prepare for betrayal. So you never believed in the Alliance? I did, he said. But I believed in humans more. Later that cycle, the fleet intercepted an outbound transmission from a mining colony, Empire-aligned, lightly defended. The message, an alert about the human incursion. Elias didn't give the order to silence it. Let them talk, he said. Let the story spread. Every whisper of us is a warning. At 0300 hours, the prisoner was gone. The alarms blared. Guards were down. Kex had vanished from his cell, leaving behind 2 dead soldiers in a sliced-open airlock. Sabotage, Tran growled. He had help. They scoured the logs and found it, an encoded message sent through auxiliary data ports, inside one of their own medic bots. A human saboteur. Private Arlen Miles, age 26. Background clean. Former communications specialist. Transferred to the fleet after the bombardment. Or so the records said. He was found trying to escape in an evac pod, eyes wide with desperation. I was protecting peace, he shouted as they dragged him into the brig. You're going to start a war we can't win. This was suicide from the beginning. Elias entered the cell. Quiet. Measured. You sabotaged your own people, he said. I saved what's left of them. You let a war criminal escape. He was going to testify. To the council. You don't win by becoming them. Elias stared at him for a long, cold moment. You think this is about winning? Private Miles hesitated. Isn't it? No, Elias said. It's about making sure no one ever thinks about doing this again. He turned to leave. Where's the line, Commander? Miles shouted after him. When do you stop? Elias paused at the door. When the galaxy does. They arrived without warning. Not to announce, not to negotiate, only to dismantle. The Vengeance Protocol and its escort fleet breached the outer ring of Empire-controlled space at dawn cycle, local time. The sky above Core 7, a fortified colony world, lit with fire. Satellite defenses didn't even react. They had already been blinded. Within minutes, 3 defense outposts dropped offline. No messages were sent. No threats. No ultimatums. Just cold, calculated strikes, surgical and efficient. Commander Elias Voss watched the operation from the bridge. Targets neutralized, reported Captain Tran. No civilian sectors touched. Next location? Elias asked. Refueling station, Eridas 4. 6 hours away. Light defense grid. He nodded. Prepare Phantom Protocol. Tran hesitated. We're deploying ghost ships. Elias turned toward her, voice low. Time they fought their own shadows. 3 hours later, 5 unmanned Corvette-class vessels dropped into Eridas 4's orbit. Painted in Empire insignia, they were programmed with one directive: make it look like internal sabotage. The ships opened fire on the station's own military platforms. Internal sensors showed widespread panic. Commanders shouted at each other across fractured comms, unsure who'd fired first. Elias stood behind the screen, silent. Let them fear their own systems, he said. Let them start tearing at each other before we even arrive. Tran watched the chaos unfold. And if someone notices the trick? They won't. Not until their AI cores are dust. The next target was larger, Triaros Prime, an industrial hub built into the hollow of an asteroid belt. High value. Low morale. A perfect test for Project Phoenix. Elias had spent years constructing it, a digital plague designed to infect Empire infrastructure and turn their own tools into liabilities. No explosions. No bullets. Just silence, followed by failure. Transmit the payload, he ordered. The virus rode in on a ghost packet, disguised as a standard update from Central Command. 3 minutes later, factory drones began attacking their own fabrication arms. Life support systems looped between extremes. Security bots locked doors at random, trapping officers in their own bunkers. By the time Empire Command cut external connections, their systems were compromised beyond repair. The asteroid burned from within. No warships needed. No human lives lost. Just whispers in the circuits. That night, Elias stood alone in the armory. The corridor echoed with distant hums, power cycling through weapons that hadn't been used in decades. He picked up a rail pistol. Cold. Efficient. Like everything they had become. Captain Tran approached without a word. He didn't look at her. 3 worlds in 4 days. We haven't lost a ship. No, but we're not invincible. She stepped closer. There's something you need to see. She led him to the command deck secure briefing room. The lights were dim, screens active. One played a recent Empire broadcast, decrypted from a civilian comm relay. Archon Virex Saluan appeared on screen, tall, reptilian, his golden ceremonial armor gleaming. To the citizens of the Empire. The humans have returned, feral and vengeful. Their world was a failed experiment, and their survival now threatens galactic harmony. We did not commit genocide. We corrected chaos. Let this be known, every world that harbors a human will be treated as an accomplice. We will purify this galaxy again. The feed ended. Silence followed. Elias finally spoke. He's afraid. Tran frowned. That's not fear. It is, Elias said, turning to her. He's lashing out. He's justifying. She folded her arms. He's declaring total war. He already declared it the moment Earth burned. He looked back at the screen. Now he knows we're capable of responding. Later that cycle, the ship intercepted a civilian transport, refugees fleeing an Empire frontier colony. Aboard were dozens of alien families, terrified, shivering. They expected fire. What they got was food. Elias personally oversaw their transfer to a neutral zone station in the Oort Reach. He didn't speak to them, he didn't need to. Their eyes said enough. He returned to the bridge as Tran watched the last pod disembark. Why let them go? She asked. It's not part of the mission. Elias stared ahead. Because vengeance isn't genocide. The next target was a communications nexus on the edge of the core, a spiderweb of relays linking Empire systems across multiple sectors. Tran watched the red dots pulse across the map. This is their brainstem. Exactly, Elias said. We shut this down, and they stop coordinating. Then we stop being a rumor. He nodded. And become something worse. The strike was clean. Drones went in first, small, fast, carrying coded EMP bursts. The relays lit up like dying stars, one by one. Sparks danced across control towers as systems failed in succession. Within 30 minutes, entire regions of the Empire went dark. Elias watched in silence. Status, he asked. Tran looked up. Nexus is gone. Empire comms disrupted in over 40 sectors. Any response? She hesitated. 1. She tapped a key, and a single message blinked on screen. To Elias Voss. I know what you've become. Come to me. Finish this properly. Archon Virex Saluan. Elias read the words and said nothing for a long time. Finally, he turned to the navigation officer. "Plot a course to the core." "Sir," the officer asked. "That's the center of their seat of power." "I know." Tran approached. "This is it, then?" Elias nodded. "We took their systems. Now we take their will." The galactic core loomed ahead, a seething mass of stars orbiting the Empire's citadel. Here, civilizations were born and erased. Ships fell silent before crossing the threshold. No one attacked the heart of the Empire. Until now. Commander Elias Voss stood on the Vengeance Protocol's bridge, his expression carved from iron. Around him, the crew moved with mechanical precision, hardened by weeks of tactical strikes, ghost ops, and psychological warfare. They were no longer survivors. They were deliverance in armor. "Final jump complete," the NAV officer reported. "We're within striking distance." Elias's gaze locked on the central sphere ahead, the citadel. Dozens of spires pierced the void, bristling with weapons, command relays, defense satellites. The Emperor's throne sat somewhere inside. "Status on the fleet?" Captain Tran answered without looking away from her station. "All ships in position. Awaiting your command." Elias pressed a key, opening a direct channel. "This is Elias Voss. You erased our world and called it peace. Now we've arrived. Not to negotiate. Not to survive. To make sure you never forget who you tried to bury." He closed the channel. The Empire responded instantly. From behind the citadel, 10 dreadnoughts emerged, flanked by smaller cruisers and drone swarms. Their formation was textbook, calculated, efficient, predictable. That was their mistake. "Activate Project Phoenix," Elias ordered. A single command pulse rippled through the enemy ranks. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then chaos. Empire ships began veering off course. Drone swarms turned inward, shredding their own formations. Missile pods opened fire on friendly targets. Screens across the bridge erupted with error signals, enemy AI collapsing under the virus Elias had been perfecting for a decade. "Cut off their comms. Leave them with no coordination," Tran instructed. "Already done," the ops officer replied. "They're blind." Elias didn't celebrate. "Target only the military nodes. Civilians stay untouched." A nod. The orders spread through the fleet. The battle wasn't won with firepower. It was precision. Discipline. Each Terran vessel hit with surgical control, dismantling weapon systems, disarming ships, cutting power cores without unnecessary destruction. But then, a single dreadnought broke through. Manual override. Old tech, pre-AI systems. It fired. A blinding bolt slammed into the Horizon Flame, one of Earth's last carriers. It cracked in two. Bodies scattered into vacuum. Elias flinched. Then his voice dropped an octave. "Return fire. Full payload." 2 Terran destroyers swung into formation. Plasma torpedoes lanced across the gap, ripping the dreadnought open. No wreckage remained. Inside the citadel, all went dark. Elias had prepared for this, the final infiltration. Aboard a small stealth pod, he and Captain Tran descended toward the core facility. A skeleton team joined them, no more than necessary. The goal wasn't conquest. It was confrontation. They moved through cold, silent corridors. The Empire's elite guard lay dead, some from their own defense systems, turned against them by Project Phoenix. Tran's voice broke the silence. "You really think he'll face you?" Elias didn't answer. He didn't need to. The throne chamber opened like a cathedral, towering, pristine, untouched by war. And there he was, Archon Virex Saluin, standing tall, draped in ceremonial robes that shimmered with nanofiber gold. "You made it," the Archon said, voice steady. "Impressive. A rabid species with just enough cunning to be dangerous." Elias stepped forward. "We were peaceful," he said. You taught us that was a mistake. I taught you nothing. You were always feral. I simply accelerated the inevitable. Tran's hand tightened on her weapon. You murdered 10 billion people. Virex sneered. Correction. We eliminated a threat to order. Elias stared at him, unreadable. Your empire's finished. You know that. My empire is eternal. Elias took a slow step closer. Not anymore. Then shoot, Virex hissed. Be the savage I told them you were. Elias raised his weapon, then stopped. No. The Archon blinked. No? We came to end this, Elias said. Not to make a martyr. Instead, he tapped a wrist console. Across the galaxy, every Terran ship transmitted the confrontation live. Billions watched. The so-called god of the Empire, cornered, powerless, ranting to a man who refused to kill him. This is your legacy, Elias said. You struck first. We answered. And now the galaxy sees who survived. Virex lunged in fury. Tran fired once. The Archon crumpled, unconscious. Not a martyr, she said. Just an old man who lost. Hours later, the fleet regrouped. The Citadel was disabled but intact. The Empire's command hierarchy broken, its fleets either destroyed or routed. Civilian worlds, untouched, began broadcasting requests for peace, independence, or simply silence. Elias gave no orders to occupy. No demands. Only one message. We're done. Stay out of our systems. Stay out of our skies. Or next time, we won't stop at your gates. Elias returned to Earth's orbit 2 weeks later. What was left of the planet turned slowly below, scarred, cracked, but still turning. Tran joined him at the viewport. No banners. No victory parade. Not our way, he said. She looked down. What now? Elias didn't answer right away. We rebuild. Quietly. Watchfully. But we never forget. She nodded. And them? They'll remember, he said. Because if they ever forget, we'll remind them.